Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Headlines with Akhilesh and me. Acha, today we are going to start with a very interesting question. Do you trust the government? How many of Indians trust the government? Forget about whichever government it is, whether it is BJP government, NDA government, UPA government, Congress government, CPI, it is not about the parties. It is whether do we trust the government. Akhilesh,
Don't ask me that question.
why does people not trust governments?
You know, Sujit, there are a lot of reasons according to me. And they all boil down to the way the government deals with you. You walk into a police station, you walk into an income tax office, you walk into any department. You always get a feeling that you are being denied your basic rights. What is due to you is not given to you. And if it is given to you, probably it is because you either use some connect or you bribed. So the first level of distrust starts is that the government is trampling your basic rights. We all have those experiences. In fact, there are a lot of court judgments wherein the courts have been very scathing on the revenue departments. That why do you deny what is due to a taxpayer? Why does a dispute get created? So I think the first reason is the government, which is supposed to be the protector of our rights, tramples it, denies it. I think the first interaction goes wrong there. And if the rights get denied, why will you trust a person?
Correct. So like I said, regardless of any political party, regardless of political dispensations, governments are never trusted. But
You said regardless of dispensation. I'll tell you the next factor because it transcends everybody. No government under any dispensation has been honest or honorable.
correct.
Whether it was the UPA or whether it is the present government or the earlier governments. You know, we have in taxation what we call tax terrorism. Whenever the government loses a case in the Supreme Court, it amends the law. Can't you be honorable? So the person who won the court case is denied the victory by a retrospective amendment of the act. This happened in the famous Vodafone case, wherein Vodafone won in the Supreme Court. The government, UPA government, amended the act retrospectively, and India got the tag of tax terrorism. So the government is not honorable. It itself doesn't honor the very institutions to which we are all subject to. You never get a feeling when you are before a Babu and he says, don't worry, we'll do it. You don't come back thinking, oh, he has said it will get done. The sense of honor is missing, I think.
Akhilesh, somewhere down the line, do you think that a lot of this is to do with schemes which are normally policies which are normally made to gain popularity rather than to actually benefit the citizens?
I think if you talk about policy making, Sujit, I would put it like this. Policy making is again directed for the privileged few. So that's another reason why you don't trust the government, because we are not the privileged few. So the government exists for the privileged few on one hand. On the other hand, if policy making is done for those millions of poor, trampled people, again, you are not into it because there is no accountability. So probably policy making, again, does not carry a sense of trust. It does not carry a sense of fairness and judicious approach. That is also another reason.
So somewhere down the line, is not trusting government an Indian phenomena or a global phenomenon?
Sujit, it's a bit of a global phenomena. If you talk about America, they do have a research conducted like this, study conducted like this almost every year or every alternate year. The last one that was conducted, the figures are falling. The number of people who trust the government there. In America, it started from the mid-60s when they stopped trusting the government in the wake of the Vietnam War, wherein the government was not telling them the truth at all. That's been a phenomena. In London, same kind of reports are coming. The figure for Greece, the number of people in Greece who trust their government is 12%.
Oh.
So 88% don't trust their government.
So what about India? India couldn't even care a damn to go and do any research and all that.
Well, we have not had the benefit of any such study.
Correct.
But increasingly...
And we will not have the benefit of any such studies in the future either.
Probably the number may be dismal because yes, you're not getting a sense of justice in dealing with the government.
Is this entire governmental system failing, Akhilesh? I'm talking from a global level, GAN level.
Sujit, I think it is failing from the angle that the accountability is missing. I'll define the failure a little more precisely.
Please.
When public taxes are gathered, last year we had about 10 lakh crores of just income tax, and they are not spent judiciously, or the public doesn't feel I get value for money. I pay local taxes, but I get pothole roads. When I don't get value for my money, and I know there is corruption around, and I know my monies have been sucked away and siphoned away, I of course do get a sense that I don't want to trust you. So the sense of distrust is pretty pervasive. You're right in saying that probably there is no concept of trusting. If you misuse my money, why will I trust you? It's my taxpayer money.
Correct.
So it's a very, looking into your face situation that you're misusing my money. I don't trust you with my money.
What could be the solution?
So how easy will a solution come if we are in a situation globally where the governments have become so onerous and so powerful? Like in India, we often say that, civic activism is missing. That if the roads are bad, do you take a morcha and go to the ward officer and, demand action? They often blame that. But what about countries in Europe, UK, USA, where they say that there's a good amount of civic activism? So unless we don't get enforceable checks and balances.
So is being resilient going against us?
Of course. I once had a situation which was told to me by an income tax commissioner himself. He said, Akhilesh, you guys keep complaining about things are not correct or, the best with the department. Of course, I differ a little, but the public perception is that. Have you guys come in a morcha to the Aikar Bhavan and demanded action? Do you guys come together and demand? You never do. So, there is no check on us. That applies to every government department.
So, somewhere down the line, I think the reason why the government is behaving the way it is because the people don't really.
I think the people are not protecting their domain.
They are not fighting for their rights.
They are not protecting their domain. So, the government has a clean sweep against you.
So I guess that's absolutely correct, because if people start talking, people start demanding, people start asking for action, I think things will be better.
See, we are seeing that very easily. But the initial point, look at it like this, Sujit. If you are an individual or a small organization with the mighty government as your adversary, it's a very unequal competition. So unless we don't have a very independent regulator far away from the government powers, which is empathetic to the public, believe me, if you will stand up against the government and you are one sole lone individual, you'll be trampled. It's a very unequal competition to face.
That is what the judiciary is supposed to do, isn't it?
But then every time you can't go running to a judiciary. And going to the judiciary is not an easy process either. It's a very tardy process.
So then, how does this get resolved, Akhilesh? Or will it ever get resolved? Or this is here to stay?
The present global trend is against resolution of this. The present global trend is that because governments don't mind the tag of being dishonorable, governments don't mind the tag of being dishonest, governments don't care if they are corrupt, it will continue. It's only when there is a very stringent civic backlash that it might change. That kind of a backlash, for example, we saw when communism collapsed. We saw it at that point of time. We also saw it when the Arab Spring came and Tunisia, Libya and all those governments collapsed. But it was such a short-term phenomena.
Correct. We also saw it in India during the Anna Hazare.
It was so momentary. And you had an Aam Aadmi party coming and finishing the agenda.
Correct. So I guess, Akhilesh, I completely agree to you. I think the solution to the problem probably lies with us as normal citizens.
It lies with us. But the initial start now is going to be difficult. An individual cannot stand up against the government. So you'll actually have to empower the individual so strongly. And sadly, the way India is, that empowered individual will also go astray.
Like Arvind Kejriwal had gone.
Big time. So, but yet, if you don't empower the individual, he is not going to be able to take on the government to create trust between each other. And that there's a larger issue to that. If I can't trust the government on my daily interaction or my daily living, how do I trust the government to resolve big problems like poverty, social injustice, setting up infrastructure, delivery of services? How do I expect them to resolve the major problems that the country faces.
I mean, it is never going to get resolved either.
Now that's I mean, I wouldn't want to actually say that because we finally are optimistic that there should be some resolution.
Correct.
But I think in this unequal game, if one part of the table is doing nothing and letting it be trampled, why will the other part not trample?
So, Akhilesh, to conclude, what we'd like to tell our viewers is there are a lot of ways and means, like things like RTI, right to information, many portals that gives you information about your government, that gives you information about the services, that gives you information about your rights, that gives you information on what has happened, that gives you information as what is actually going to happen in the future. When I say happen in the future, I don't mean astrology, I meant, plans for the future. There are a lot of websites, there are a lot of things like the RTI, again I mentioned, and these are things that I think common citizens should use.
I'll raise a burning issue. After the Scindia House fire, do you trust the government with your data and records?
Absolutely no. Absolutely no.
Basic issues.
Correct.
The distrust is so pervasive that unless we don't protect our turf, it will not get restored. And the government presently globally is a 1,000-pound gorilla. How do you take on it individually?
Correct. So, protect your turf. That's the message. Namaskar.
If you like this video, please share it and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel.